Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. As everybody know, Pennsylvania is the ground zero of what's occurring. And I hear a lot on the news, but I wanted to listen to somebody on the ground, somebody that I trust, somebody that is neither left or right, that's going to spin what's actually going on. And I couldn't think of a better person than my former colleague at Coffee Party, one of our members on the board, Tim Danahey. Tim Danahey, how are you doing today, my brother?
I am doing well. Always delighted to be with you, Egberto.
Well, look, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is we have the Fetterman Ed race going on right now, the Fetterman Oz race going on right now. And I don't really know what's going on, where the people's minds are. I know you interface with a lot of people. You're on the ground a lot of times. How or what are people telling you?
At this stage of the game, the perception that I have is that Fetterman is in the lead. His health issues have been attacked. How can I put this? But it brings attention to strokes and recovery. And so the more people learn, he actually becomes a somewhat sympathetic character, and attacks by a doctor become unseemly. And so that's something he has to fend, as there are concerns that way. The attack ads which are occurring are horribly unfair, as they are across the country, I'm sure, and your listeners can attest to that. It's nothing but fear-mongering. Fetterman's vulnerability is primarily his forgiveness of criminals who have served time, who have murders from prison. Well, no, it's a situation where the driver of a car who did not hold a gun or shoot a person drove a car, and somebody else shot the person. Should that driver also spend his life in prison, although he had nothing to do directly with killing? That type of thing. It's a very nuanced attack on Fetterman. I think it got some traction. I think closer than it was before. But I think Fetterman is also pointing out some flaws, the typical flaws in Republican candidates right now.
So do you feel that enough of the Pennsylvania voters will be sufficiently sophisticated to make the delineation that you just put out there as far as crime, as far as many of these other issues?
I think he is vulnerable on the crime just due to the fact that it requires a level of understanding to understand that issue. So naturally, the Republican candidate is preying upon it. However, Oz is a deeply flawed candidate himself. First of all, he lives in New Jersey, and he lives in Florida. He lives in Turkey. Those three places. That's something you do not want a New Jersey person running for office in Pennsylvania. He also has made statements, regarding the lack of forgiveness on abortions. He has he has a checkered past himself. So while the race has narrowed and Oz has gained, I do believe that the defensive for Fetterman is shoring up. Fetterman is still in an advantageous position, but it's still 2 weeks till the election.
Now, what's the enthusiasm? I know that one of the things is that they really have to get their performance out of Philadelphia and a few other very more, I don't want to say progressive, but more areas that are commensurate with what Democrats are looking for. How is that enthusiasm seeming from your point of view?
I think the early voting numbers are strong. I cannot address the Philadelphia issue and whether the votes are coming out of Philadelphia like we would need. But Fetterman is very interesting in that he's doing something different than typical Democrats do. And that is he goes to every county. It could be the reddest of red counties, and he goes there and he wins votes. So while urban centers such as Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are very important, excuse me, while they're very important, Fetterman has worked hard to distribute his support into surrounding counties, and people, I think, are appreciating that.
That is such a very important point that you just placed it, and that I think Democrats fail to take advantage of all the time. It's not about winning every district or winning every county. It's about making your losing less losing in those districts that mitigate for that wherever you overperform. I mean, that is a very important point that you've just mentioned here. Now, with the governor's race, it seems like that one is almost a runaway for Shapiro, especially since that candidate, if Oz is flawed, this guy is in the dumpster.
Mastriano is odd to the extreme. Shapiro, I might make mention too. Shapiro is an exceptionally good man. It's not like in many races where you have to say pick the lesser of two evils.
Right.
Drug companies. He went after abuses in the Catholic Church, which Mastriano used as a political thing, saying because Shapiro is Jewish, he goes after Christian religions. Mastriano is out there. Shapiro is a good man. Mastriano is so deeply flawed. I do not understand how a man like that could possibly win a party's primary unless the party has become so shrunken, so devoid of principle, as to allow a man like that to rise up to the candidate for governor. Even the Republicans in Pennsylvania, the traditional Republicans, are running fast and far from him.
Well, what's interesting, Tim, is that you just said something that I really want to address, and that is, yes, there are a lot of these very flawed candidates running in the Republican Party, candidates that supported January 6th, candidates that don't believe in fair elections, etc. But bottom line, we've become so polarized that people are just going to their corners and voting for these folks. In this case, the danger ones are on the right. I mean, and you have to start asking your questions. When will all Americans start accepting responsibility to ensure that their vote is not on a party line, but a vote that really elects the best person to solve the problems? Your thoughts? We were with the Coffee Party, where we tried to bring a lot of that to the forefront, getting people to be able to talk to each other, that they feel that they don't feel guilty when they have to go transpartisan, if you will.
Well, it's amazing that 12 years ago, the Tea Party seemed crazy, but now it's almost as if the Tea Party is the moderate, and we could easily discuss issues with them. I mean, how far have we gone since 2010? So, I recently read a book called...
I'm sorry, I didn't get the name that you comped up. I really want to get that name.
8 Days in May.
Got it.
And I don't know the author of this, but it was about the 8 days between the time that Hitler died and Germany surrendered.
Gotcha.
And one of the interesting thoughts is the day that it was announced that Hitler had died. It's anecdotal, but one German person said it was as if all of a sudden people's minds turned on again.
Wow.
Yeah. And as a result, of course you have your hardcore people involved with this and everything, but it's as if all of a sudden they started thinking again. And as a result, the process of healing and building and constructing occurred. And actually, in that period of time, just to show the extremes, after Hitler died and before the Germans, whenever they surrendered to Germany, Germans surrendered, the United States put in like a 48 or hour window that Jews were fleeing to Germany to escape the Russians.
Wow.
And it was a fascinating story. So perhaps at some point, reason will prevail again. And I do have an abiding faith in the American people. As Winston Churchill says, you can always count on the American people to do the right thing after they've tried everything else.
I love that you said that, because, in the book that I have called It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relative Friends and Neighbors, one of the areas that I have in the book that I said, we also have to give these people a place to land. In other words, you have to ensure, and one of the reasons I know you know this well after being a board of directors on the Coffee Party, we surely believe, we have faith in people, and we don't make anyone our enemies, no matter how they come. They are never our enemies, because we know that in the long run, folks will come home.
Yeah. Well, the Roman general Scipio, he said, never surround your enemy. He says, get them on three sides and allow them to flee on the fourth side. Yes. And that way you avoid the costly nature of the siege, and where no one wins. Let them have a back door to escape and regroup. And Scipio was one of the great Roman generals. Same thing with I would hope that Republicans would look at Democrats. This is not a matter of victory. This is a matter of honor. Right. And, Joshua Chamberlain, whenever Robert E. Lee surrendered at Appomattox, Joshua Chamberlain, he didn't have his men make fun of him. He didn't have them jeer him. He made all of his men stand at attention and salute fellow American, the man who led the insurrectionists of the Civil War. And he honored him and said, go ahead, take your guns home. So keep your guns, take them home. You're Americans. We went through this. We won. You surrendered. No dishonor, and that's the way we need to approach this. If we can do this in 1865, I would hope that we can do this in 2022 and hereafter.
Brother, you validate what I believe or what I'm doing, but and I think it is so important. One of the things that win or lose, I'm not going to be rubbing it in. I think that is so important, because again, people, and I try to promote this a whole lot. People are victims a lot, and I'm using the word victims intentionally. People are victims to their rearing. People are victims to their upbringing. People are victims to their religion. People are victims to all these different structures that they had nothing to do with. And if some of those structures are defective, I think to simply put the weight of blame on the individual does nothing for promoting moving forward. Your thoughts?
Well, we're not looking for victory here. Right. We're not looking. Our solutions are not absolute.
Right.
And the phrase, perfection is the enemy of the good. Whenever we propose an infrastructure program or a CHIPS or whatever the bill might be, it's not going to be perfect. I promise. Even it's not Reconstruction, but after the Depression.
Okay, you faded out a bit. You're talking about after the Depression, right?
Well, yeah, or during the Depression, the government programs, and everybody talks about the waste and everything like that. But we created like 7 or 11 million jobs in 30 days, and yes, people were complaining about 3,000 people abusing the system. Egberto, we got to roll with it. Yes. We're going to roll right. We're going to roll left and hope that we eventually come in towards the center.
Look, folks, Tim, give me your closer, because like I said, it's always a pleasure speaking to you. You're a man of wisdom.
All right. I appreciate it. It's always an honor to be on your show. Thank you very much, Jay.
Thank you very much. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.